Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into our latest Bank Holiday Monday historic weather video here at GavsWeatherVids. So here we go again, time to bring you another historic video. We only do a few of these every year on the bank holidays. So this one is for the August bank holiday of 2024. And for the fourth and final time, we're going back to the 60s. This is before the final part of the Back to 60s series that we've been doing all the way through the year. Started the first one of those, I think it was Easter Monday, and then the 2 May bank holidays as well. We went back to the 60s. So, final Back to 60s installment in a moment. I shall get on that for you shortly, just to say that if you're enjoying the content on the channel at the moment, if you'd like, share, and subscribe, show to everybody for dear Matt. Check out 6 AM broadcast that was released at 6 AM. And to say that the videos will be back to normal tomorrow, so I'm having the day off today. Been working really hard, so I'm ready to have a day off of this bank holiday Monday, and so that is really the reason I do the historic video show, to give myself a day off. But the regular weather vids will be back tomorrow, of course they will. Thank you so much, Richard, for our amazing historic weather video series gift for the Back to 60s series. Thank you so much, Rich. I love it. And also, thank you so much to Trevor Harley and also Wata for supplying the information. So, to Trevor Harley, all the information here in this video will have come from Trevor Harley's weather website, and also to wetcentral.d for supplying the historic archive of charts as well. As I always say, I'm always the smallest cog in the wheel with this, and you know, I'm just like the narrator of the story. But what makes the historic weather videos work, I think, is like the information from Trevor Harley combined with the archive of the chart. So thank you so much to West Central, and thank you so much to Trevor Harley. You can find a link to both of those websites in the description with this video. Thank you so much to both of them. Thank you so much to all of you for spending this time with us on this bank holiday Monday. I'm always blown away that people want to spend, you know, a good portion of an hour, you know, it's a long video, a good portion of their bank holiday Monday with me and with GavsWeatherVids. So thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you're having a lovely bank holiday. I know it isn't a bank holiday, though, for Scotland, but those of you north of the border, you can still enjoy the video anyway. Right, okay, well, as I say, we're doing the fourth and final part of Back 60 series, looking at 1967, 1968, for this one. So we're beginning exactly where we left off with part 3, which was the final day of summer 1967, summer of love. Though we're beginning on the first day of September. Don't really have much information for this month, actually. Trevor Harley just says another very average month with temperature, well, very average month. Temperatures overall has a central temperature of 13.5, which is probably a bit on the cool side by modern standards. But that then, you know, nothing really that interesting either way. So we'll have a quick look anyway to see how it evolves. We begin here on the 1st of September with low pressure out to west of Scotland. We're bringing in a westerly flow. I think actually it's certainly no hot start to September there. Looking actually rather wet and windy in the opening days, but we don't see that very often these days, do we? Rather cool, wet, windy, strong westerly winds there. Another low zipping through brings some early autumn gales, maybe by the 5th of September. Now, we go out beyond that, we start getting a ridge of high pressure building up from the source. This is not a hot ridge, though, on the cool side of the ridge, but nevertheless settling down and becoming just that little bit warmer as well, I think, as we're moving into the second week of September. And high pressure bands sort of reaching through the north and the west of Europe, keeping a lot of dry weather going into the middle part of the month, although if there is a low down to the south and southeast, it'll probably bring some rain into southern areas. Now, there's the remnants of some sort of tropical storm and or hurricane in the North Atlantic just here. Let's see what the impact of that is as we're moving further on. Now, we're gradually progressing back into a cooler and more unsettled pattern again, really, as going through the 3rd week of September. That's the 21st of September. We've got low pressure sitting over to the east country, bringing down quite a coolish north winds. You see how this has a relatively modest CT of 13.5, can't you? Well, we're heading into the last week of September, drawing up like a southerly flow. with high pressure southeast, low pressure is out to the north and to the west. So we end up warm, but still quite unsettled, I suspect, before westerlies start sweeping in there on the closing date of the month. No, sorry, that takes very nicely through to October, which has a central in temperature 10.8. Again, not too far from average. Trevor Hardy says about this month, pretty average month temperature, CT 10.8. Although the month was very wet and stormy, so this is a classic wet October. Some places receive 3 times their monthly average rainfall. We're starting off unsettled, certainly, with deep low pressure between Scotland and Iceland. An active weather system pushing eastwards across the country. Another deep low sweeping in there from the century to the 3rd of October, bringing the wet and windy weather in with it. Below then clears out into the North Sea, brings the wind back round to a northwesterly, so a little bit of cooler interlude before the next low starts rolling in as we go through the first end of the first week of October. You've got high pressure south, low pressure in the north, a very classic sort of zonal type setup. That takes us through to the 9th of October, where there's just some very warm air bathing in the country. We're in a big warm sector there about high pressure over the continent, but the price to pay is that there's an active trailing weather front through the allegation in the isobars. So on the 9th, Great Langdale in Cumbria recorded 146 millimetres of rain. Goodness gracious me. That is 25, 50, 75, 100, 25. That's nearly 6 inches of rain in one day. No wonder they called it the Lake District up there. Anyway, we push on through into the 11th, 12th of October. Low pressure keeps on coming. Other bouts of rain heading in as well. We get into the middle part of October, looking very unsettled. This is a really active, really active October. This is the 16th, and 25 millimetres of rain or more fell across much of England and Wales on this day from this particular area of low pressure. Again, the upper air temperatures show that we've got a big warm sector fueling that precipitation, that rainfall. It is cold to the far north of Scotland, so quite a big temperature gradient, explaining why it was such a wet day. By the way, on the 27th, we're going to get a wind gust of 94 miles per hour, Portland Bill. We'll see how that happens. That low sits through by the 17th. This is 10 years before the 17th of October 1977, my birthday. And we bring the wind into the northwest, so rather cool and colder and showery then. Perhaps this rain gets away. Actually, show a good wind shear across Scotland and Northern Ireland there. A little blast of early winter condition, not lasting very long. We're back into southerly southwesterlies by the 19th, and still with low pressure involved in that as well. Right, well, let's push on further into the last stages of October. That's a little bit less unsettled here as we get to around the 22nd, 23rd, particularly the south. It's still unsettled up in the north, but south could be perhaps a little bit drier. 24th, 25th, wet and windy, deep low pressure sweeping in from the Atlantic. Very, very Atlantic driven. This, isn't it? Very Atlantic driven month. And again, 27th, with this area of low pressure, this is where we get that gust of wind of 94.4 miles per hour. And Trevor Hardy from that area of low bringing, yes, more rain. And Trevor Hardy says that it was actually a sunny month despite being, a wet month as well, which is something that you do see of Atlantic-driven months. As these weather systems are zipping through, continuously, you do get quite a bit of sunshine on either side of them. Well, then we go through to November, which is relatively dry, and a quiet spell in the middle of the month brings hard frost and a touch of snow. Some air. So that's a central temperature of 5.4, which is quite a coldish October, November by modern standards. So after that very wet October, it looks like we're going to go to a more anticyclonic month, but we're starting off certainly with low pressure dominated weather here on the 1st of November. That low pressure rotating around the country through the opening days of the month, bringing more bouts of rain. This low looks like we'll bring some very wet weather into south, for example. So, not much sign of a dry month at the moment, but presumably we're going to get some high pressure shortly. It's all low pressure through the first week of the month. The 8th of November to the 9th, we've got some high pressure originally up from the southwest. It looks like this is where it starts to turn drier. That's a very mild scenario by the 10th of November, dragging in southwesterly wind. It is drier, though, particularly so for the south. High pressure trying to get its act together. These low pressures to the north and also to the west are quite strong. Now, we go through the 13th, 14th, and then we start to push this low into the north of Scotland. There's a cold front going southeast. Notice a mid-Atlantic ridge here through the Atlantic going up towards Greenland. That begins to pull the wind round to a cold noise. So this is the cold snap, hard overnight frost, and even a little bit of snow. But so Harley was talking about -5 Celsius ice firm there, digging into the northern half of the country. So big contrast in temperature this month. On the 17th, the southeast recorded on the 11th, I should say, the southeast recording 17 Celsius, but further north, Carlisle records -2 Celsius, maximum -2 by the 26th of March. So big contrast in temperatures through this November. Well, we're in a high pressure, so hard overnight frost by the middle part of the month, 17th. Let's see what happens after that. The high pressure sticking around the country. Definitely a much more anticyclonic scenario here as we go through the 3rd week of November. Technically mild. Upper temperatures look nice and mild. Probably frost and fog, though, and that area of high pressure. It's 1967, so Clean Air Act was only passed in 1962, I think. Which means that basically, you know, there is still a lot of fog potential at these areas of high pressure. Well, we're coming to the end of the month. Winds are going back into the northwest once again. So this is 26th, this is the day, but we get that maximum of just -2 at Carlisle. Upper air temperatures look quite cold. We've got -5 Celsius through the country, but a warm sector is waiting in the wings, and those milder westerlies then push through as we get into month's end. So we end November 1967 on a relatively mild note. And then that takes us through into the winter of 1967-1968. First day of meteorological winter. 1967 looks like that, under an area of high pressure, bringing plenty of frost and fog with it. It has a central temperature of 4.2, which again is a little bit on the cool side for modern Decembers. So overall dry and sunny with alternating cold and mild spells cancelling one another out. There's a cold outbreak around the 8th of the night. Heavy snowfall in Dorset on the night. 45 centimetres of snow will be falling in North Wales on the 8th as the cold air hits the mild air on the south coast. There are also thunderstorms along the Channel and 8 hours of snow in Brighton, giving 28 centimetres restricted to the coast. So let's see how that happens, shall we? Start off at high pressure, probably bringing a bit of a gruesome twosome, a little bit of frost and fog, but otherwise, you know, it's a quiet start. Now, high pressure pulling out into the Atlantic. We call this retrogression. Retrogression. That's when we take the high pressure against a zonal flow. So zonal flow is like west to east. If you take the high pressure against a zonal flow, that's going into retrograde. And we take the high pressure from east to west. That's normally a sign that something's up within the atmosphere. Let's see what happens. Well, we're shooting the high pressure up towards Greenland, and we're bringing down this cold northerly blast here from the 5th through to the 6th of December 1967. Upper air temperature looking very cold for Scotland with -10 Celsius firm digging in. That is a real cold northerly blast. -5 Celsius firm made its way all the way down south coast. That would be bringing snow showers into the north in particular. Now that takes us through to the 7th. This is quite interesting. There's some sort of feature coming southwards within that northerly. So that probably bring a more general area of snow southwards on the 7th of December. Upper air temperature over my 10 cells ice is normally right way through the country and into eastern parts of France even. So this really is a very, very potent northerly blast. Let's see how this stir event happens then. So yeah, I've got an unstable northerly via a classic mid-Atlantic ridge. Not really a classic Greenland block, but the ridge is going up to Greenland. It won't be sustained, you know, it's not a locked in Greenland block that, but it's enough to really force down a very, very long fetch northerly. See how far back north the isobars going right way to the Arctic. And if we look at the upper air temperature, again, very cold with minus 10 cells iceberg pretty much through most parts of the country. And again, we've got some sort of weather system coming southwards into that. And it looks like there's a bit of stall of that weather system taking place. So it's the 8th to the 9th, but we get the snow event. So again, heavy snowfall in Dorset on the 9th, 45 centimetres snow, North Wales on the 8th. And that will be on a cold front that is coming south, on a clear front that's coming southwards and developing an area of low pressure along it. Quite interesting. So by the time we get through to the 9th, that low has actually gone down into France. That's formed an actual area of low pressure along the front, and we're just opening the doors to those northeasterly winds then. So the persistent snow clears away to south, but probably gives fairly widespread snow event, I would have thought. Across particularly much of England and Wales, snow showers up in Scotland, of course, those northeast winds, and you know, a classic sort of early winter snow event there, quite similar to what happened in 1990. Everybody remembers snow event from 1990 in the Midlands in particular. Then that's quite similar to that, and around the same sort of dates as well, actually. Now we go through the 10th, the high pressure beginning to start toppling. So the high pressure started to slip south, as I say, wasn't a locked in block. So milder air beginning to start heading in around the top of that area of high pressure. Trevor Harley says that temperature fell to minus 13 in places on the coldest day of the year of minus 14.4 degrees at Carnwath in Strathclyde on this day, on the 10th. Milder air arrives on the 11th. It's another essentially cold spell for the south, but Trevor doesn't remember. So if you look at the upper air temperature, you see we are still well and truly entrenched in that very cold air on the 10th, but milder air is waiting in the wings. We're only going to go in one direction, which is that milder air then starts flooding in around the top of the high. Still pretty cold in the south and southeast on the 11th, but turning milder up in the north, and I expect by the 12th we will all be bathed in milder upper air temperatures. Yes, we are, so cold air is forced way to the north of the east. So a little teaser maybe for the rest of the, for the coming remainder of the winter. Well, let's push on through towards Christmas. So another little cold snap coming in here around the middle part of December, bringing my 10 cells isotope back into the north. I mean, it's amazing 60's how easy it is to get back by 10 Celsius isotherm southwards in these, in these cold snaps through the 60's. We're back into milder air again around the 18th or 19th, or trying to. High pressure trying to get its act together down towards Spain and Portugal. But actually, we're still mostly cold air there, particularly to the north and to be pretty much on the periphery. Notice much of Europe being plunged well and truly into a freezer by way. That's a big cold block that's sitting there up to the north and the northeast. All mild by the 23rd of December, pre-Christmas. Mild spell with southwest winds from the Azores flooding into Western Europe. Look at those upper air temperatures. See, really, it's a very long fetch. Southwesterly, and the cold air being forced down towards the Balkans, Greece and Turkey. Probably snowing in Athens there before Christmas 1967. We keep those southwesterlies going, running up towards Christmas, but then begin to shift wind back around towards the west again. So Christmas starts to turn cooler, not particularly cold, but starts to turn cooler perhaps on Christmas Eve, those northwesterly winds. I'm actually going to northerly, not particularly cold northerly, but we're going to a bit of a northerly on Christmas Day. Might have been enough to deliver some wintry showers parts of Scotland. But the wind goes back into a milder west-southwest again after Christmas on Boxing Day on the 27th. Then another cold snap on the 28th. That brings cold air southwards again. So this really is a seesaw month, isn't it? With westerly, southwesterly, northerly, northeasterlies, you know, alternating day by day. We get to New Year's Eve, the end of 1967. And, well, again, we've got a little bit of a cold snap, actually, through the country with -5 Celsius iceberg, but milder air, once again, is waiting in the wings. Right, shall we go through to 1968? That takes us through to January 1968. It has a central temperature of 4.4, relatively mild by 1960s standards, but probably about average for, like, modern standards. Trevor says quite mild, but there was some unexpected light snow in southern England on Saturday the 6th. There was a notable snowstorm in the south on the 8th, 9th again, similar, you know, to the 8th and 9th of December the month before. That's quite interesting, affecting a large area of country from North Wales to southeastern England. Snow started in Southampton just before 2 p.m. Let's see how that happens now. When we start 1968 with northerly winds through the country, so a cold snap. But winds go back into the west again on the 2nd before returning back to the north on the 3rd. Again, you see, got some very cold air. So just to the north of Scotland, about -10 to -15 Celsius iceberg, trying to push southwards. Back to milder west-southwest winds there on the 4th, and then into like a cooler westerly flow on the 5th. We get through the 6th, what are the upper air temperatures doing? So this is looking like battle lines drawn, actually, 6th through to the 7th. We have got cold air, but in place across particularly northern eastern parts of the country. Milder air is sitting out to the south of the west. Now, how does this snowstorm happen? I think it'll be for a battle. So this is the 8th. This is where the snowstorm begins. We've got battle lines very much drawn here. So remember, the way this works out, anywhere in this yellow area is only going to get rain. It could be freezing rain, depending on whether the dew point, the surface temperature, is at or below freezing, but it will always rain if the upper air temperature is above 0 degrees. However, where you are in the green areas, then you can get snow, again, depending on the dew point, but the dew point below freezing. And, of course, it becomes even easier to get snow where you're within the -5 Celsius iceberg, that black dashed line just there. So with such a big gradient, you know, from southwest to northeast, clearly the battle lines are well and truly drawn here as this low pressure coming into that cold air. There's a weather front probably through there that marks the boundary, and so that is how the snowstorm happens. Let's read a little bit more from Trevor Hardy. So, by the morning, I think this morning of the 9th, in some areas there were snow drifts 3 metres deep with strong southwest winds and level snow up to 30 centimetres in the middle part of Wales, with 10 centimetres of cover over a wide area. So this is a real, you know, sort of nationwide snow event, really. That takes us from the 8th through to the 9th. So what's happened there is that the low pressure has gone in a northwest-southeast trajectory along the jet stream, and again kept most of the country in that cold air, and actually brought cold air back. So by the 9th, the low pressure going down into France, and winds are swinging back into the east. Check out the upper air temperature, got -10 Celsius iceberg pushing in from the east this time, and that will probably be delivering, after the persistent snow from the 8th to 9th, that will probably be delivering heavy snow showers into eastern parts of the country there. Right, so that's a nice, interesting little snow event. We go beyond that and get a just high pressure building within the cold air then. So look, -10 Celsius iceberg again through many northern and eastern regions. Milder air, though, is trying to get back in from off the Atlantic once more. So when we get through to the 12th and the 13th, then the cold air collapses again, and back comes this push of southwesterlies. Look at the upper air temperatures, see the cold air retreating away to the east and northeast yet again, as milder southwesterly winds come back once more. So Trevor Hardy says, after a cold start, the month became much more mild on the 13th. The Clyde Valley storm in Glasgow on the night of the 14th, 15th, excuse me, unfortunately killed 20 people. 9 died in Glasgow alone and injured 40, with over 1,000 homes damaged. Electricity was lost across most of the city. 50 or so had to be abolished. Good gracious me. The damage was said to resemble the effects of the Clyde Blitz in March 1941. The storm affected much of the north, with Glasgow recording an average wind speed between 2 and 3 a.m. of 61 miles per hour. That's average, not gusts, remember. And a gust of 102 miles per hour. There was a gust of 117 miles per hour recorded on Tyree, and Great Dunfermline in Cumbria recorded a gust of 133 miles per hour, at the time the highest recorded in Britain. Tornadoes were reported with this feature as well. Pressure dropped very quickly on the 14th as mild Atlantic air met a block of cold air over Europe, and as the depression passed, pressure rose very quickly. Sounds slightly like the October 87 storm. So that's the 14th. We go through into the 15th of January. And this is the day of the storm, well, the 14th to the 15th. So it's this low just here. That low just there. Doesn't look that bad, does it? But obviously it must have deepened like mad. So if we go through actually to the 15th, what we do with this, and then look at the midnight chart, then, well, there you can see it, can't you? Look how tightly packed those isobars are at midnight on the 15th of January to 6 a.m. on the 15th of January. Oh, yeah, that is a really significant storm, isn't it? That's pushing through the northern half of the country and causing all of that tremendous devastation. Goodness gracious. By midday, I suspect the low is zipping out into the North Sea and things are starting to calm down a little bit. So it probably would have been actually worse if that had hit through the middle of the day, because a lot of that is overnight from the 14th to the 15th. But nevertheless, still very, very devastating and unfortunately, caused fatalities and whatnot. So we go beyond that, just go show how devastating weather could be. We go beyond that into the second half of January 1968. Again, we're in most southwest winds. We're generally quite mild here, a milder phase to the winter. High pressure taking over, though, so we might be starting to see an inversion. Technically, upper air temperatures are mild, but at about high pressure, there could be frost and fog, groups of twosome going on. I mean, trying to get back into a northerly again as we're moving on into the final week of the month, but not really successfully doing so. So after that very cold and wintry sort of first week, 10 days, but the rest of the month is actually quite mild. After that tremendous storm, the middle part of the month, actually the second half looking a lot quieter. We get to the end of January 1968, still looking pretty mild, but we are beginning to start trying to pull the heights back out into the Atlantic once again. So that takes us on to February. This is the coldest month of the winter. I have two very cold Februaries, the end of the 60s in 1967 and also, no, back in 1968 and 1969. This one has a central temperature of 1.9. February 1969 is even colder than that, though. Trevor Hardy writes about this month. It's cold and largely dry, but with some heavy snowfalls. There's going to be a particularly heavy snowfall in the Midlands on the 5th and the 6th, particularly for the western part of the Midlands. So let's see what happens. We begin with like a northwesterly pushing through here. We then start to whip up this big low pressure on the 4th in the Atlantic, so it's looking quite stormy, bringing probably an active cold front with heavy rain sweeping eastwards. And then following that, we've got colder air beginning to get brought in around the backside of that area of low pressure. So then low pressure starts sinking through the country. Notice high pressure reaching through the Atlantic, trying to go back up towards Greenland once again. So as this low pressure sinks through the country, how the upper air temperature is looking. So it is quite a cool or cold core low. So this is where the snow is coming from for the Midlands through the 5th and the 6th of February 1968 under that area of low pressure. It doesn't look that cold a scenario does it? But obviously, the upper temperatures are just cold enough to turn the rain to snow, and again, that's particularly so through the western part of Midlands. Trevor Hardy writes, heavy snow fell at Kiel for 12 hours, giving 37 centimetres of snow. Crewe Station was blocked with snow. Many roads were blocked, particularly in Staffordshire. There was up to 45 centimetres of snow from this area of low pressure in some places, such as North Staffordshire. There was widespread disruption to traffic in Birmingham, but only a little way away in Nottingham, the precipitation fell as rain. So this was very marginal and was particularly for more northwestern and western regions, I think. Trevor Hardy says, I don't remember these events at all, nor do I remember snow falling the following February 1969. Apparently, it wasn't that cold and not really predicted, so surprise snow then. In fact, rather oddly, I can't remember any of the snow from the 1960s, other than 1963, my daddy. Trevor Hardy remembers my daddy, but not much else. Anyway, that's all we've got for February 1967. Let's see what else happens through the month. I imagine with a CT of 1.9, there is going to be further cold and snow opportunities. So we're up to the 8th now. We've still got that low pressure of meandering around. A block is getting going up towards Greenland and Iceland. Upper air temperature is not that cold, but probably quite chilly. Now, I think what's going to happen here is that Logan sinks southwards. I'm going to start bringing the wind in from the east. So by the 10th of February, we've got a block sitting in the North Atlantic and into the UK as well. Upper air temperatures are starting to get some cold air trickling in from the east there. So by the 11th through to the 12th, we've got low pressure. We gradually, day by day, incrementally, we're gradually getting into a negative LAO type pattern here. So we've got low pressure down around the Azores now, and high pressure still up towards Greenland and Iceland, albeit it's quite a weak area of high pressure. Very cold air beginning to gather just to the north. Are we going to get a blast of that? Let's have a look. So we go to the 13th and on to the 14th. Still keeping that coldness of the air at bay, actually. Most of that is going off into Scandinavia. So we've kind of got this ridge through the country within, again, not especially cold air. So get the pattern. It's a bit surprising that the CT is so low. That's the 15th of February. So again, we've got a block trying to form around Iceland and Greenland. We're trying to bring in very cold air from the north with that my 10 south Iceland, just making it into the far northeast of Scotland. Will we get a blast of this? 16th, 17th. We are so close here to having a really big freeze up from the north. Have got cold air through the country now. Got minus 5 south iceberg, right way through the central northern eastern part of the country anyway. And under this ridge, there will be a lot of frost and fog going on as well. There'll be any more snow opportunities. Let's have a look. So we're up to the 19th, again blocking feature, weakish around Greenland and Iceland. Low pressure trying to get up from the southwest as well. Battle lines a little bit drawn here as we're coming into the last days of February 1968. So cold and wintry. 21st takes low pressure down towards Biscay, bringing the wind from an easterly direction. Upper air temperatures are becoming colder. I would imagine that easterly will be starting to feed in snow showers to the east. Now that's quite interesting. That's the 22nd of February. So low pressure then trying to come up from the south with an easterly wind ahead of it, an icy easterly wind. Upper air temperatures now are genuinely cold with those easterly winds. I imagine below could well have been producing outbreaks of snow across central and southern parts of England and Wales there. The easterly wind maintained through to the 23rd of February as well. Again, we see the upper air temperature looking really quite bitter there. And then we find the high pressure is going towards Mount St. beginning to sink down through the country, so turning drier, but probably still some hard overnight frost as we come to the end of the winter of 1968. I think at that point we'll probably pause the video. We've been talking just over half an hour, so we'll pause the video. When we come back, we're going to go through spring and summer of 1968, which is also interesting, has a lot of interesting weather, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. See you soon. Okay, we're back, and we're going to continue the fourth and final instalment of the Back to the 60s series, looking at 1967-1968, where we left off. I've already come to the end of winter, but actually I didn't realise this is a leap year. Yeah. So there is actually a 29th of February, so this is actually the last day of the winter. Not much different to the day before. Mostly dry, probably some frost with this area of high pressure, but reasonably mild by day. Okay, well, let's push on into spring anyway. So that gets us through to the 1st of March. This month has central temperature of 6.3. That's about average, really. I'd say there was widespread snow in Scotland on the 17th, with up to 15 centimetres. Then all changed as there was a notable warm spell at the end of the month. Goodness gracious me. So more topsy-turvy weather, because very topsy-turvy winter, wasn't it, with everything going on, a bit of everything. It looks like March has a similar situation. Let's see what happens anyway. So we go through into the opening days, high pressure to west, relatively dry and mild, and quite a benign start to the month. But high pressure then pulls out into the Atlantic, so cooler or colder air starts coming southwards here, sort of on the cold side of a ridge, if you like. Upper air temperatures aren't particularly cold, but certainly there would be a chill, to these northwesterly to northerly winds. Notice most of Europe still very cold. This was actually, I'm sorry everyone, this was actually very close to being a very cold winter, because much of northern Europe is, through most of this winter is plunged into the freezer a lot of the time. Let's see how that start event happens in the north. So we're coming to the middle part of March, looking more active. Low pressure coming in from the Atlantic, bringing outbreaks rain. That's quite stormy there on the 16th. That takes us through to the 17th. So we've got a classic cold zonality going on here. Look at the upper air temperatures, -5 Celsius, but making it down even into southern parts of the country. That'll bring wintry showers across the country with both strong to gale force westerly winds. But it's something in Scotland, of course, where you get the most significant cold weather from cold zonality. And that is why 15 centimetres of snow is falling on those cold westerly winds. Well, let's see what happens with this heat wave. Apparently, there's going to be a March heat wave. So, the cold zonal flow carries on through the 3rd week of March 1968. But by the 23rd, we're starting to draw up more of a southwesterly. I would imagine high pressure going to build to our east with low pressure out to west. It will turn wind around the south. Up to the 25th, nothing particularly interesting happening. But that's the 26th. High pressure beginning to push up from the Azores, dragging up warm air with it. Look at the upper air temperature, got the +10 Celsius isotherm down towards the Bay of Biscay. The +5 Celsius isotherm is through most parts of the country as well. And, by the 28th, we're starting to bring up a southerly, and that is a long fetch southerly. You follow the isobars back with that, see the air actually is originating from North Africa. So I would imagine there would have been some Saharan dust coming up with that southerly flow, +10 Celsius isobars pushing northwards on those balmy southerly winds. What's Trevor got to say about it? Let's have a look. So, a notable warm spell at the end of the month. The equal record maximum temperature for March, 25 degrees, was reached on the 29th at Cromer and Santon Downham in Norfolk, and 24.9 Celsius recorded in East Dereham, also in Norfolk. Indeed, 25.6 degrees was recorded at Maple, I think that is Cambridgeshire that day, although there is some question about reliability of this figure. The high temperatures resulted mainly from a warm southerly airflow. Unlike the heat wave 3 years earlier, this one stayed mild at night. 4 days later, Arctic air swept back in. It was snowing in London. The record daily rainfall for the month of March of 164.3 millimetres was set at Glen Ateeb, I think that is, on the 26th. So we go back to that. So this day sets the record March rainfall, and that's on that long fetch southwesterly. So this is the day when all our temperatures are falling all over the place. 29th of March 1968. Cooler air starting to try and come back in to the north actually. So the north is beginning to cool down, but still very warm with those upper air temperatures down in the south, +10 Celsius. So more or less makes it into the country there. But as we get to the end of March, we're going to have another change for the start of April as this low pressure zips through, and that starts bringing the wind back into north. So Trevor Hardy did say, but just a few days later it was snowing, and that's how that happens. The heights all pushing up towards Greenland and Iceland, low pressure in the North Sea, and down comes the north. So instead of plus 10 cells iceberg, that's got a minus 10 cells iceberg, flirting with Northern Scotland. Very, very entertaining, this, isn't it? All these changes and, day-to-day changes and whatnot. Very, very entertaining period. You can't beat the 60s. They're interesting music. My late mum, Mr. P, would have said, but you can't beat it for interesting weather as well. That is the 4th of April, looking cold there, with winds in from the north, got minus 5 celsius iceberg all the way down south by 10 celsius iceberg into northern parts of Scotland. This month has a central temperature of 8.1, again, not too far from average, really, a little bit on the cold side. Trevor Hyde says it has a cold first half. There was a notable cold snap following the notable warm spell at the end of March. It was 25 degrees at Cromer North on the 29th, but minus 10 Celsius at Strathspey, I think that is, on the morning of the 2nd of April. There was a light covering of snow across the east of England, with temperatures near freezing, accompanied by a strong northerly wind. Goodness gracious, what a flip from the end of March. A minimum of minus 9 was recorded in Rutland, near Corby, Northants, on the 4th. There was widespread light snow and a blizzard in Scotland on the 2nd. 20 centimetres of snow lay in Edinburgh, and it was cut off for a while. The cold air was introduced by a cold front moving south on the 2nd, with the temperature fell 10 degrees, 10 Celsius, in 3 hours as that cold front pushed through across the south. On the 2nd, also the 21st, there was a great Coventry tornado, usually occurring on a warm, calm day. Oh, let's see what happens. Obviously, it did get warmer in the second half of the month, but we had some very cold air through the opening of April 1968 with a classic sort of spring northerly blast. High pressure then starts toppling through the country as we get into second week of April under high pressure. Probably quite cold at night with overnight frost, I would imagine, but by day reasonably pleasant given the strength of the sunshine, but probably still a bit on the cold side at night. Beyond that, into the second half of the month, winds begin to shift round to south, much milder air starts coming northwards, with this area of low pressure coming northwards as well. So we go on through the second half of April. A lot warmer, obviously. The pattern is shifting, to low pressure west, high pressure to the east, which allows those much warmer southwesterly southerly winds to bring much warmer air northwards. But it is a bit unsettled with rain in the west as well. That takes through 21st, which is the day of the Great Coventry tornado. And so Hardy says, unusually this occurred on a warm, calm day. So I don't know what accounts for that. Probably some sort of localised thunderstorm or something maybe. Anyway, high pressure bringing a lot of dry and warm weather through the second half of April 1968. So a month or two halves, really cold in the first half, much milder in the second half, but turning cool, or probably quite chilling, and unsettled again by month's end under that area of low pressure. Low pressure over into the east of the country on the 1st of May, and May 1968 is a very cold month with central temperature just 9.8 degrees. So Hardy says a very cold month overall. To add to the misery, it was dull and wet as well. There was snow as far south as the Midlands on the 18th, and it only started to warm up on the 27th. So I would imagine we're going to get like this blocking air of high pressure. It really showed its hand through the first half of April, actually. I would imagine that's going to be a player throughout most of this month. So a classic sort of scenario, particularly for summer, of a block to the north and a trough of low pressure underneath it, and with this low pressure, continuous bouts of rain pushing through. So this really does look like an atrocious start to May 1968. Cold and wet with a blocking air of high pressure and a stationary or near stationary trough of low underneath it. It looks grim, doesn't it? These charts look pretty grim. Try to get warmer here, though, around the middle part of the month. Try to raise heights a bit to the south. We have actually increased the upper air temperatures a little bit. But the high's still pulling back to the north again, though, you see. So by the 17th, despite that attempt to warm things up, actually, we've still got that block scenario around Iceland and Greenland still bringing the wind from the northeast. Imagine if this pattern had set up in like one of the winter months, then we would have had a sub-zero CT winter month, I think, given how much cold was sitting across northern Europe through most of the winter. That's the 18th. Again, looking pretty grim. High pressure blocking around Iceland and Greenland. Winds coming in from that northeasterly direction again. And all the time we bring wind in from the northeast, temperatures in May are going to be suffering. It's not as wet as it was earlier on in the month. It is drier, but overall still pretty grim. Still on the cold side of the block. That gets us to the 27th. This is when things start to change, things begin to warm up, and that happens because the blocking feature actually comes to Scandinavian high, and the Azores high starts lifting northwards into it. So now we start to bring some much warmer air up into that area of high pressure. Instead of it being a cold core high, it's actually a warm core high. And we get to month's end with a nice ridge from the Azores to Scandinavia and much warmer with both upper air temperatures as well. Probably seeing temperature getting into 20 Celsius. On a welcome relief, I'd imagine. June, the beginning of summer, first day of mid-tropical summer, looks like that of 1968. The central temperature is 14.8, which is a bit above average. So the high says it was a slightly above average temperature. The only month of the summer in which that was the case. It was fine. It was fine from the 8th to the 17th, with parts of Scotland seeing unbroken sunshine, which is 28 degrees on the 10th. The last day of the month was hot across England and Wales as well, apparently. So I imagine it's going to have quite a lot of warm weather. Let's see. So we go through the first week of June with low pressure way to the northwest, high pressure to the south. So, you know, it's a classic sort of early start to June scenario that mostly dry and potentially quite warm, I think, there by the 9th into the 10th and the 11th. High pressure dominating through the northwest Europe. That's a nice area of high pressure, isn't it? After that miserable May, this is giving like a really classic spell of early summer warmth and sunshine too. By the 14th, a bit of a funky low is trying to come up from the south there, but mostly being fended off, I think, by that area of high pressure. Then low pressure comes back in. High pressure sort of weakens into the third week of the month. Low pressure starts heading back in from off the Atlantic, bringing cooler and more unsettled interlude through the third week. However, we know it's going to get hot by month's end, so how does that happen? I would think it'd be high pressure building up from the south. So the 28th, still looking quite unsettled though, with troughs still over the country. So it says a tornado left a trail of havoc across the Midlands on Friday the 28th of June. Tornado touchdown in Bartley Green, a suburb of southwestern Birmingham, passing on to Woolley Castle, where it did most damage, taking the roof off houses and shops and bringing down a local landmark, the Cornucopia, I think that is, on top of Black Pillar, which used to stand outside the California pub. It then passed over the top of Pagnell School and followed to Bournebrook before finally doing some damage to cars parked at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Right, well, beyond that, we can find high pressure building over to the east of the country. Upper air temperatures started to look very hot just to our south. So we're coming to the closing days of June. And we've got some proper hot weather going on here. Temperature will be lifting up into the 30s Celsius. Look how close a plus 20 Celsius iceberg is to us. That's a shock. I didn't know that plus 20 Celsius iceberg got through France into the Channel in 1968. Goodness gracious me, wouldn't be that surprised about that now, but back then, that would be very, very unusual, very rare. A really hot scenario here as we come into the end of June 1968. Definitely temperature would be up into the 30s Celsius. But inevitably, with that, we start to trigger a thundery low. So by the 1st of July, well, look at this though. We've got the plus just 20 Celsius isotherm here across southern and southeastern parts of the country. Wow, wow, wow. Wonder how hot the temperature gets. Let's see what Trevor Hardy has to say. Overall, this is quite a cool month. The temperature just 15 degrees. Trevor Hardy says it's generally dull, cold and wet, especially in the south, but with two exceptional thundery outbreaks. The first 10 days were very active. Obviously, with this scenario, it would be. A slow-moving cold front ended June's hot spell on the 1st. It saw temperatures temperatures reaching 33 degrees, 92 Fahrenheit in London, with severe and prolonged thunderstorms in the north and the west. Oh dear, my voice has started to go. In the north and the west, with darkness at noon from mid-morning on the 1st till late afternoon on the 2nd. A hailstone at Cardiff Airport on the 1st measured 7 by 6 centimetres. I wouldn't like that to fall on me, says Trevor. Sadly, there was some lightning deaths on the 1st. The rainfall on the 1st was accompanied by a notable dust fall, with this long-bet summoning surprising sand from the Sahara when storms in Algeria at the end of June lifted the sand, which was then transported northwards at a height of 3 to 5 kilometres on southerly winds. The rain was said to be coloured red and brown, so that on the morning of the 2nd, much of the south was covered with brown streaks. The thunderstorms and dust came as a result of a Spanish plume. It is thought to be the heaviest dustfall for over 200 years with this. The school line where the hot and cold air met with thunderstorms, thick cloud and dust made it unusually dark. On the 2nd of July, 35.7 millimetres of rainfall fell in just over 9 minutes at Leeming, giving a sub-10-minute total of 238 millimetres an hour, a UK record for such a short time until 2003. 184 millimetres of rain was recorded on the Isle of Man. Deep drifts of hail on the roads in Yorkshire needed bulldozers to clear them. More exceptional storms occur on the 9th. Well, let's have a look at what happens then. So, if we go back to that chart, so you can see what's going on. Obviously, we've got, go back to the upper end temperature. Obviously, we've got cool air away to the north, a huge temperature gradient, cool air and a cold front through there. Very, very, very hot air being drawn up from the south. 33 degrees with plus 20 Celsius isotherm. Actually, pretty modest, I suppose, because the sea, like the North Sea, the Channel, would have been quite cool, would have had a cooling effect. So it makes you wonder how hot it would have got, like in August, if this had happened. So obviously we've got a big temperature gradient, very, very hot air being drawn up from the south with a near stationary cold front and a thundery low developing into the mix as well. That's the 2nd, when the hottest of the air begins to get swept away to the east by this thundery low. It's a classic Spanish plume, thundery type scenario that we see there. By the 3rd, the low has made it up to north of Scotland. Winds are back in from the west again. And that's the 4th. And now much cooler, much more comfortable with those upper air temperatures. Slight gradient, probably with further heavy showers and thunderstorms through the remains of the first week of July. And then another low started to come up from south and southwest into the last stages of the first week of the month. In the 2nd week of the month, it gets us to the 9th, when again we have got some very hot air sitting just to our south once again. A big heat dome through France, Spain and Portugal. And Trevor Hardy says there is more thunderstorms on the 9th. So let's see what he has to say about that. More exceptional storms on the 9th. This time in the southwest. Pressure was high, but then in the evening of the night, a depression deepened as it moved across southern England. So much more, everyone. The 10th was very wet, with over 100 millimetres of rain falling wide across a large area of the country from Devon to Lincolnshire. 175 millimetres of rain from Chewstoke to Somerset. On the 6th, 125 millimetres in 17 hours at Bristol, leading to flooding and damage. Many bridges were swept away. A large tract of land from Somerset through to the South Midlands and Lincolnshire had more than 75 millimetres of rain. The Cheddar Cays were flooded for the first time in living memory. There was a notable gale on the 11th in thundery weather, particularly affecting Southend area of and areas of eastern England as the depression cleared away. So, well, there it is. There's the troublemaker developing within a big temperature gradient. Again, we are putting some hot air up from the south. Very hot through France, Spain, Portugal. Cool up to the north. That temperature gradient, what fuels the area of low pressure, somewhat shades of summer 2007, with that bringing all of those flooding rains across much of England and Wales. Trevor says it was, however, fine in the north and west, such as southwest Scotland, particularly from the 18th. There was 75 millimetres of rain in a thunderstorm at Ilford on the 31st. Northern Ireland had a very dry month. Low pressure tends to be to the south, therefore, I would imagine. So, into middle part of July, well, very unsettled. Low pressure sitting around to the southeast, actually ridge out to the northwest. So that's why Scotland to Northern Ireland doesn't get it too bad with this pattern. But to the south and the east, that's where the lower pressure is. Under a ridge there, around the 19th, 20th, that brings drier and warmer conditions, I would have thought. But then the high pressure sort of flirting away with the north and the west. So a lot of dry and fine weather into the last week, 10 days of July of 1968. Back decks us to month M, where there's a thundery low beginning to push up from the south. And then finally, remember, we only have a central temperature of 15 degrees with this month, despite having a plus 20 Celsius ice film across much of England on the first day. So that's quite unusual. And then finally we go through to August, so we're coming to the end of this bank holiday historic video, and also back to 60's series. Thank you so much, everybody, for the support that you've given this series. I don't think you can beat the 1960s for, you know, for music, as my mum would have said, and also for weather, as I would say. So I hope you've enjoyed our Back to the 60s series. Let's just have a look at August. Central temperature 15.4, very cool, dull and wet with persistent northeast winds. Oh dear. There was under 10 hours of sunshine recorded at Folkestone in the first 9 days of the month. However, in places sheltered from the northeasterly winds, such as west of Scotland to Northern Ireland, again, it was a fine, warm, sunny month with the highest, warm and sunny month. The record highest pressure for August at 1,037 millibars was recorded at Kirkwell, Orkney on the 26th, although the record was broken in 2021. Right, so let's just go through these charts very quickly. Again, you see the high pressure is away to the north, always lower pressure to the south. So, like just here, an area of low pressure over low country, probably bringing heavy rain and thunderstorms into south and southeast, whilst further north, Scotland and Northern Ireland having a nice area of high pressure. So really unusual pattern this. With those of you in the north get the best weather, and people in the south having quite a cool and wet scenario. Now into the middle of the month though, much more uniform unsettled weather with this area of low pressure punching through, bringing outbreaks of rain in with it, so turning cooler and wetter, rather dare I say autumnal, into the middle part of August 1968. And then high pressure starts reaching up from the south. So we start to revert back now to a more typical classic pattern. High pressure to the south and east, low pressure out to the north and west. That tries to bring some hot air back up to from the south again. Actually bring some quite hot air up from the south, plus 15 Celsius isotherm. So we come to the end of August and high pressure takes over again. Notice that high pressure back to the north again though. Weaker pressure further south. Upper air temperature looking, you know, not overly hot, but quite pleasant. And into the last days of August and summer 1968. Well, again, we somehow found a way back to that pattern of high pressure being away to the northwest and low pressure to the south and to the east. So we end August 1968 with low pressure then pushing through, bringing a rather coolish and autumnous, perhaps, start to September. In fact, it was. But that pattern of high pressure to the north-northwest, low pressure south and southeast actually continued, interestingly, through September of 1968. And if you'd like to know more, let's just make that look a little bit better. Right, so if you'd like to know more about 68, 69, which we're not going to cover in this series because we did it a few years ago, then there is a historic weather video for 1968 to 1969, and I will actually link to that in the description with this video. So if you want to carry the story on, I look a lot younger on that video, which was a few years ago, but if you want to carry the story on, see what happened in 68, 69, which was a cold winter, or certainly a very cold February, and has a white Christmas in 1968, then you'll be able to do that. I'll link to it in the description with this video. Right, well, that brings us to the end. How long I've been chatting for? About an hour. That's exactly how I wanted it. So thank you so much, everybody, for spending this time with me. It's been a long video. I do appreciate, people spending this time with me and with GavsWeatherVids on their bank holiday. Your time is precious. I know that. So I just thank you so much. Thank you so much, Richard, for our amazing historic video series gift for this Back to the 60s series. Thank you so much, Rich. I love that. And thank you so much to Trevor and also to Weather Central for supplying the data and the charts and the information and whatnot. Thank you so much for both of those resources. I can tell you the next historic weather video will be on Christmas Day, so we've got a long run now for the next one to Christmas Day. And that, as I announced last year, it's been in the works right way since last Christmas. That is going to be looking at the winter of 1837, 1838, which was a severely cold winter. So we're going to be going right way back to virtually the very beginning of the archive at Weather Central for this year's Christmas Day historic video. I can't wait to bring that to you. I'll be looking a lot smarter, I can tell you, on the Christmas Day historic weather video. I might even have my best shirt and tie on, but we'll see. But, no, I won't be looking scruffy like this on Christmas Day. Obviously not. Anyway, you enjoy the rest of your August bank holiday. Things will be back to normal on the channel tomorrow at 6 a.m. broadcast. The Extended European Outlook and a 10 to 14 dayer. I say, I'm having a rest today. Whatever you're doing on your bank holiday Monday, then I hope you have a lovely, lovely time. And we'll end it there. So for this historic weather video, the fourth and final part of the Back to 60s series for 1967, 1968 at pretty much 1 hour. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.